win, SSG win, MIBR win, and Giants win. It puts us into a 6-way tie with 6 teams on 3 points. And when I think about those matchups, win is not completely outside of thinking. The biggest difference maker is going to be the OxG versus Giants game because of the way that Oxygen are playing so far today. What we saw from Giants wasn't fantastic. That's going to be a big ask for Giants to win that one. But
I'll go as far as saying, based on how Giants played earlier, that should be another 7-0 in the bag for Oxygen.
It's going to be a big ask, Des, is what I'm going to say for Giants. But yeah, there's plenty of craziness to come just yet. But we got to get there. I'm an NIP fan, and I'm not too sure.
Oh, really, Ace? I'm so glad you told me.
I've not mentioned that one before.
Ace, Stan in LATAM? That's a new one.
It's unreal, isn't it? I'm not sure that NIP are going to lose both games, if I'm honest. I think TSM, this is going to be the closer game. I expect NIP to get something out of SSG.
Yes.
TSM here could well beat NIP, but I think it was Kix who said it, absolutely hits the nail on the head. Consulate is a LATAM map. NIP are a good LATAM team on a good LATAM map. This is not going to be easy for TSM. Bans coming in, we won't ignore them, don't worry. NOMAD, Thatcher, VALKYRIE, Echo, reasonably standard. NOMAD going by the by generally leads on to that VALKYRIE ban because NOMAD, of course, frees up the opportunity for runouts. VALKYRIE just provides information to support them. So if you're not going to have one, you really can't have the other.
I'm somewhat surprised by how few Echo bans we've seen throughout the group stage so far. Given how impactful, especially on
Very
maps
true.
like Cafe it's been, I thought we'd see more because for the longest time, Echo was a permaban. A lot of it would force the other side to bring along an IQ, for example. I imagine you're going to see Julio switch away from that, given there is no VALKYRIE or Echo on the map, and absolutely he shall. Steps away to the Zeros, something a couple of teams have employed from time to time. I know that Dark Zero are partial to it, alongside the Blitz at points. I believe it was Oxygen that we saw utilising it earlier on. Now it's going to be NIP's turn. It's more being used for flank watch, I think, around this map, because it was on this map that we saw it. More just to keep a close eye on the stairways, on the rotates through rooms, for example, just to hopefully do away with any would-be naysayers of the other team that are looking to ruin your party at the very end of the round.
Zero's an interesting one, Des.
I love him.
It's very interesting because you've got to remember one of the uses to those SAM cams that's often forgotten, is an alternative to Thatcher. It will have a 1-charge zap that it can use. So if you've got a bandit battery, an electrical, you know exactly where it is. A mute jammer. You can put your SAM cam within a visual line of sight of it. You can zap it away. And we have seen it used as an alternative. Of course, Kali is another alternative to that, using the Javelin. But I think Zero doesn't limit you as much. Kali, you then have to have the sniper rifle. You have to play that distance game with her, whereas Zero is an operator that can get in there and get frags as well.
Absolutely can, and given the fact that he has a Claymore where a Nomad is banned, you're not going to be saying no, because it means between the Ash and the Zero, there's 2 of those on side. I think earlier on we saw the Nomad banned away in one of the games, and it was 3 Claymores being brought along on Cafe, I believe it was, in the first game of the day. It's always mindful of those roamers and what they can do. Seems that it's going to be the same sort of setup for NIP, even if you are against a more, air quote, structured team like TSM, who you wouldn't expect to go as wild on the roam as you might expect from teams like Parabellum or Makers or other teams who have given them trouble here at SI.
Preston Lobbit will be our site for round number 1. NIP just applying a little bit of pressure to underneath there, opening up that garage reinforcement, and it's something they do need to be aware of, Des, because Achieved is down there with Nitro in hand, and he's down there specifically to be able to deny a plant in the late round potentially. Should it come in through double door, you can use a number of hatches to be able to get the explosives up there and try and prevent it. Now, Psycho, he's still in there just opening up hatches and using that utility. He doesn't seem too worried about the fact that Achieved is still present downstairs. I'm not sure how aware of it he is. He will be now as a drone spots him out, and you feel like NIP, they need to do something about Achieved sooner rather than later.
I think in their mind, getting the hatch open just to try and force him out and maybe chucking a nade up there might be enough in their books. I mean, chasing someone around the bottom floor of this map forever, you can get really lost. However, if you do try and push him like that, he is going to sting. And maybe a little bit solo there from Psycho, not quite looking to push as a pairing, to see him missing out. 2 dead for NIP without any response in the other direction.
They've undercommitted, Des. They've undercommitted to clearing Achieved out there, and they've paid the price for it. Pino and Psycho are now in the dirt, and it's 5 versus 3. They're only just starting to try and and clear out the top floor, and they're at a serious man disadvantage because now they're in a situation where they can't push in numbers, they can't really push as a pair because they don't have the numbers. But patience. That is beautiful patience from Kamikaze. Perfect word to describe it. Gio just moving, falling foul of that line of sight from the spiral rappel, and that brings us one step closer to NIP leveling things up, which they will do with Julio coming in on the rappel and gets a kill onto Charlotte.
Yeah, 3 versus 3 though, and 30 seconds to play with. You feel like NIP, although their patience has paid off, maybe they've been a bit too patient with their approach towards the site. They had the downstairs clear and finally achieved his gun, but gets traded out by Merc, who is still playing in bathroom, one of the reasons why they first pushed downstairs. Another one from Bolo onto Julio. Kamikaze, after his holding on spiral all game long, is going to try and make some magic happen, but he's in a 1 versus 1. There's no way here he should have the time to make this happen, but where is the final man?
He's doing it, Des.
Bolo. He's got 2 seconds. He'll have enough time for this one. Can he hold out? Can he come off and go for the flag? No, he can't. Bolo goes big, puts him on the ground, gets the defuse in. My God, did it come down to the dying second.
That came down to a fraction of a second. Kamikaze just gets off the diffuser there. I think he was fractionally in a position to challenge, but very difficult when you're going up against somebody like Bolo who's going to win a gunfight in a heartbeat. I think if Kamikaze has 1 extra second there to just set himself, get into ADS, he seemed to know where the man was coming from and he could have had an opportunity to find the kill there, but it's not something that we want to be seeing out of NIP, Des. It's something that I brought up right at the beginning of the group stages. It's been a thread throughout. It's something we've seen from NIP, and that is pacing. Can't leave it so late in the round, and they were very slow to start getting those kills on the clearance, and it was 20 seconds again when they were pushing towards site, so it's something that they just need to be mindful of as they progress forward. But that was an exciting first round to get us underway. NIP hopefully learning a lesson or two there about roam clearance, and that they just need to be maybe committing greater numbers and just moving quickly. You know, it gives you that confidence to do that. If you send 3 in after achieved, the likelihood is he's going to run or die, and you've got that job done in 20 seconds. You're not still dying to achieved a minute and a half in.
Full commit or don't commit.
Yeah.
Is exactly the way to look at it. And one other thing I want to raise now, this is poking the belly of the dragon a bit here, so I'm going to be careful with this one. Achieved a Merc across the last couple of maps. I can probably count on both hands. One isn't enough to count how many of these weird 1v1 gunfights they've got into and have either whiffed crucial shots or just flat out lost in the individual trade. And that was against Kamikaze coming out there, for example. Knew the man was sitting in the Levante, steps out for him, misses the shots, doesn't bring him down, and then we see that round ending develop out the way that it will. Now, on paper, does that matter that much? No, not everyone's going to win every single gunfight. But if you're coming in wanting to make a statement of, we are a serious team ready for playoffs to show what we're made of, to have 2 of your members missing out quite a few crucial gunfights is really painful to see. I'm hoping that coming into playoffs that is going to change, because today it has cost them a few rounds along the way, even if they are still walking away the winner. It's a very, very small fickle point, but when a team is this good, small fickle points are all you've really got to go on, to be honest, Ace.
Absolutely correct, Des. Now, coming into round number 2, we are 30 seconds in, no deaths to report, 5 versus 5, and NIP, they're droning and trying to get that information. Julio on the Twitch, something that we actually see reasonably frequently. It's an operator that he likes. I think the F2 as well is also in support, but again, Des, just fulfilling that role, that alternative to Thatcher. He brought Sam along the first time. It was Zero who came with him. This time it's Twitch.
And the Claymores, don't forget too, again.
This is it, that's it. Brings the Claymores for any potential jump outs, given that NOMAD is not on the board as well. So this is what we love about Siege, is this play and counterplay, these myriad options to get the same job done in a different way. Now Psycho, he's going to drone out Piano. I think they are reasonably confident that the mid floor is clear at the minute, but of course there are 2 TSM players up on the top floor. We can see that Bolo is one of them. I think Charla is out there on the roam with him as well. No, he's downstairs. It was achieved, sorry. He is now moving back down towards site. But NIP, they need to get a grasp of this, Des, and they need to sort out achieved and Bolo.
They do. We spoke about it in the previous round. It was 2 dead for NIP incredibly quickly. Trying to take the first solo 1 versus 1 on Spiral. The Pino came out the worst end. Gio walking away with the kill. And the second one on the downstairs we all saw on our screens as Achieve finally struck with some venom after being ignored for a good minute and a half. Here we're 2 minutes in and no one's died. I say that, speak it into existence. Bolo starting it off onto Pino, who has been the entry death in both of these rounds so far. Not like him. Psycho swings out for a bit of a later trade, but 4 versus 4 with 50 seconds to play. Again, you're starting to count the numbers here and thinking this should turn into a bloodbath very damn soon.
Achieved, they don't know he's there, Des. They've no idea. Muzi runs completely blindfolded into Achieved at the top of the yellow stairs and gets shut down. And it is this continuing problem for NIP that we've seen in round 1, continuing into round 2. And that is one of two things: an inability to find and keep a grasp on where the roamers are, or an inability to close them down and kill them. A combination of the two has been deadly for Muzi there and leaves NIP in a 2 versus 4 and another round that they are unlikely to win.
You can't get that hatch open for a crazy drop. You only had 2 pellets. You need 4 to get the hatch up, so he's going to have to rotate out. But with 1 bullet to their heads, that'll be enough for him to anywhere on the body. Should put them in a grave. With TSM before left, there should be no way this round goes the other way. That's a pretty clean start with a 2-0, showing that on the roam they can do some good work. NIP have got to get so much better at dealing with Achieve, because he is being a massive thorn in their side right now.
He is just very slippery in and around, and this is one of the reasons that I love Consulate. I know there's sort of mixed opinions sometimes, but it's one of my favourite maps in the pool. I always enjoy it, and it's because of the mobility that roamers can enjoy around the map. It is quite a narrow map when you think about it, from, say, the distance between meeting and balcony through to the spiral stair, you know, the widthways, if you will. It's quite narrow, but ultimately the number of hatches, the number of staircases allows for a lot of vertical transition quickly. And that, for me, just creates these really unpredictable roams where it can be really difficult to actually nail them down, because it's so easy for them to flow around the map and to move from one level to another and to transition from staircase to staircase. You can loop around so easily, Des. If you get caught in meeting, you're down Visa stairs, you're up spiral staircase, and you're challenging from a different angle within, what, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, tops? For me, it makes it really explosive.
This might have been the fastest timeout we've seen yet. 2 rounds in, and NIP, they believe there is a great enough problem in dealing with these roamers that it has to be talked about now. They can't figure it out between rounds. Part of me is thinking something like a Jackal may help here. If they know that Achieved is giving them a headache, why not just scan him out? And again, almost speaking it into life here, the Jackal might be what's getting picked up. So a couple of amendments coming in. Nothing earth-shattering outside of maybe that Jackal. A 6 pick away from the Thermite onto the Zofia. Make that the Iana behind the scenes as well. So that, to me, sounds like it's going to be a lot of intel gathering you're riding on. You've got the Iana looking towards making use of the Gemini clone. Also looking towards the Jackal track-in to do the other work for you. But unfortunately, we will step into a quick rehost as that recurring bug with the 6 pick appears to have reared its head once more.
Unfortunately so, but it's just going to give NIP, amongst the players at least, an opportunity to continue that discussion and just try to nail down exactly what the problem is for them here. We'll get a quick reboot, we'll get everybody in, don't you worry about it. It won't be long before we're back underway, but TSM coming in with a quick 2-0, Des, and it starts taking us one step at a time closer to that potential 6-way tie here in Group B. The first 2 things that need to happen for us to see that would be TSM to beat NIP and MIBR to beat Makers. I think that game is just getting underway, so we'll keep you updated as and when we know more. We'll, as we go along the way, give you a little idea what's going on in the other stream as well. But yeah, we're on the road here, Des. I honestly think TSM have strongly prepared for Consulate, for NIP.
Quite possibly. Or they're just playing this roam-heavy style, and NIP just can't seem to adapt.
I think there may be an element here of TSM thinking we could get a Consulate pick out of NIP because they'll be happy to go there. So let's prepare for it and let's take them there. Because, as you say, you know, it's potentially possible that they've watched NIP previously and recognised that weakness of, look, they're not quick enough to deal with things in the early round. Let's get 2 roamers out there and let's just get aggressive and up in their faces, and we might find some advantage from it. And the thing is, it's unusual, it's uncharacteristic of NIP at the minute. Pino has taken both of the entry deaths, and he is usually by far and away their leading entry killer. And usually within LATAM is the leading entry killer. He is absolutely fantastic at getting those opening kills. So it's a big blow for them to be losing him at the beginning of every round.
Well, fingers crossed after that discussion, they know now what needs to be changed. The Jackal is one of the things that will step in. Imagine you're going to see the 6 pick away again from the Thermite to the Iana. On the other side, it's the mirror across to the Vigil for Merc. So Part of me wants to say that could be a doubling down on this roam setup, but given that we are going, I was going to say I couldn't see at the bottom of the screen what site we were going to, but I saw the operators and was like, this can only be for split. It is going to be the split site, Tellers and Archives, leaning in towards quite a C4-laden setup, 4 of them to be precise. The Mute and the Mozzie playing downstairs with a little bit of denial, no doubt, on the drones, but you've also got the Vigil, which to me actually suggests maybe they just play upstairs here and really try and lock things down, don't give that control over to the attacking team. You're also going to have Merc, no doubt, taking that role that Achieve played previously of being the one out on the roam and looking to be disruptive.
I don't know if Medics saw where Merc deployed his bulletproof camera. It was in Visa, Medics. If you could show us Visa wall, it's just inside the windows. You'll have to flip us 180, Medics, if you want to find it. There we go. Thank you very much. Top of your screen. Interesting position and immediately placed there by Merc. What that's going to do is give a view into Tellers. It's going to give a view into Visas as well, but it's hopefully going to give them some sort of idea whether a plant's going down. And as you say, Des, it's going to support that vertical denial that they've brought along. The Nitros in pocket downstairs. We sort of see mixed success with them for actual plant denial here. They quite often get kills on this side, but it doesn't always stop the diffuser going down, and quite often it comes down to, I think, not knowing exactly which spot is being used in Tellers, because there's about 3 or 4, so it'd be interesting to see whether that bulletproof camera has a particular impact on that or not. And also, with it being placed out of the way there on that back wall, whether NIP do pick up on it should the occasion arise if they get themselves established in Visa.
Achieve going for a nice mid-afternoon stroll, way away from sight. He was all the way out towards Garage, using it on yellow stairs in case someone is trying to push up. A bit of a risk, given he is their only form of information. When someone is going for the plant, they'll be relying on that pulse cardiac scanner to be able to know who is where, who's going for a plant, for example. Where do the C4s need to be thrown most crucially? And bit scared out by a drone there. Bit skittish, boys.
Could have been some chip damage going on there, but there's more than chip damage as Kamikaze finds the head of Bolo, taking the Mozzie down, and that is going to leave any drones that he happened to have captured, should he have done so, locked in place now. 5 versus 4. Gone. Good start, another C4 gone. I don't think that's too much of a problem for TSM Des at the minute, given that they've got another 3 in pocket, but it is still a very valuable thing to note, because if we do get into the late round and they are short of a C4, then again you start asking those questions.
May have just bailed on their top floor roam as well. Everyone downstairs, back on site. I tell you what, these pixel swings where you see for a split second they miss each other by the narrowest of margins makes you want to cry. You can see the yellow pings coming out though, as I imagine that's coming from the pulse from downstairs to let them know what's going on. And Merc trying to find a flank, steps up for a challenge and comes out the worst side. Why would you look away from the man when you know that Muzi was looking down Anti from the off? He gets pushed from another angle, maybe expected that he pushed elsewhere, but he would be wrong. TSM bleeding out 3 members on the roam quite early here, and NIP are in the driving seat.
I can only assume Merc must have been aware of a push coming from yellow stairs as well, so felt he was pinched and had to challenge somewhere, but well played by NIP to create that situation to give Muzi such a freebie essentially. He wasn't even challenged on that one. Now Psycho, he's going to start pushing down towards site. NIP with a man advantage for, dare I say it, the first time today. Now that's a beautiful nade from Charla, just using the heartbeat scanner to see exactly when the man was over the top of that explosive and to detonate it perfectly. They're going to try and get the diffuser down here, Des, but they've got the heartbeat scanner underneath. They will be aware of his location. They're just going to ping it out, use the shotgun there. They've also got 1 nitro left from Achieved. There it comes, he opens up the floor, he has to move 3 seconds, and Psycho's going to try again, Des. He's going to try again, but here we go. That's the kill Achieved with the double nitro. He just couldn't get the diffuser down, Des, and the important factor there that I want to point out was the earlier nitro kill was actually teamwork. It was the pulse scanner that scanned it out, but it was the mute nitro that was used to get the kill, allowing Achieved to have his for the final moments.
That was just going down into the 4 versus 2, but what perplexed me was you're in a 3 versus 2, and it felt like there was 1 man still alive on NIP going for the plant. Where were
Psycho trying to put a diffuser?
Yeah, where were the other 2? What were they doing? After Kamikaze dies here, sure, he steps over and takes it back. One of them came down Spiral at the very end of the round. The other one ran on site there at that point, so fair. But you're wondering the question of, well, why isn't someone pushing down Visa? Why isn't someone pushing down Spiral? Why aren't we giving them somewhere to look that isn't just at the ceiling? They could have been freebies.
You know that they're going to be playing in and around archives and storage, you know that's where they're going to be playing. So, as you say, if you've got a man spare, send him down the spiral stairs and just put fire onto the archives double door. Just put some bullets in that direction so that they can't just operate as freely as they were doing. Just at least give them something to think about other than there's a plant going down above us.
Pain. Pain is how I describe it there for NIP, and more of those will be kicking themselves over and probably enjoying the fact that we do have another rehost coming in for another 6-pick bug. Should be back in pretty quick. You know, one thing that normally you wouldn't talk about in a cast here, actually, is the pace at which we do get back into game. I remember back in the days when we get to like a 15th round of a map, and the poor observer would have to set back up the lobby, configure each round and say who won, who was on what side. It would take forever, whereas now, on this LAN client at least, you boot back into the game and the lobby still exists, the score's the same as it was, bam, you're straight back into game. It is annoying, obviously, but it is still nice and quick, so hopefully we're back in there in about 30 seconds or so and able to get on with things. But for NIP, again, we need to see things tightened up a little bit here. Poor roam clear, poor execution later into the round. Got an early entry kill or two, fine, maybe you celebrate that, but it's still a small win to have when so many other things are coming crashing down around them.
Absolutely. Now, NIP, they need a round, is what they need. They need a round quickly. You know, there's a number of things that are going to go towards them being able to achieve that. I really thought that was the round for them. They came in, they got that opening kill onto Bolo, they started to power into the round, they got control over tellers, they were able to start putting the diffuser down. But as you say, it was just, again, that final piece of the puzzle that was missing for them. They weren't able to disrupt what was going on underneath them in archives, and that could have been crucial to them getting the diffuser down there, but unable to, and TSM take full advantage of that once again and get themselves into the driving seat. 3-0 now. They are guaranteed at minimum a split half here, Des, but the way this is going, you wouldn't be surprised to see it go 4-2, dare I say 5-1. TSM are running away with things right now.
On the other stream, of course, we have Makers versus MIBR, another game that doesn't really have a massive impact on the standings, more a jostling for position. Over there right now, that's sat at 1 apiece on Oregon, with Makers just taking the second round after a post-plant victory. Here in this game, as you can see at the bottom, it is becoming very dominant and one-sided towards TSM. We do keep on calling for NIP to buck up these ideas here, fix the small things that are going wrong. And in this round, at least, it feels like they're stepping away from that jackal that we saw come out earlier on.
Going to go into lobby and press room once again. So this is the same site that we saw back in round number 1. If you remember, Achieved played downstairs with the Melusi. He brings the Melusi along again. It's something that NIP need to recognise and do differently. They either need to go in mob-handed, 3 of them, get him killed, get him out of the way, and get on with the rest of the round, or they need to just ignore him. They need to go up to the top floor, clear it out, get that top floor control, and then push down onto site. Because ultimately, if Achieved is 1 of 1 or 1 of 2 left towards the end of the round where NIP try to put the diffuser down, it won't matter. He will be pulled from the basement back up to the site. He won't have much of a choice about it because it's far too great an area for him to necessarily know where the diffuser is going down then. So we'll see what NIP do with that. Plenty of utility being applied to the top floor from TSM. Not too much of a surprise there. It was all largely wasted last time, Des, because NIP didn't go in and get too much ground on the top floor. It was late in the round that they really pushed in there.
This is interesting. They've gone for this single wall setup with the mute jammer stayed behind it, so clearly they want to force a bit of attention coming in. But they've now also got the mirror window on the downstairs from Achieved. I imagine the second one going inside a bathroom, just to give him more tools in his utility belt here. More things to contest the other side with, and I imagine this is somewhat for the long angle, the reason why they've got that one on the far right reinforced. Elsewhere around the map, you've got Bolo looking to cause trouble on the top floor, so it is a full 3-story roam coming out of TSM in this round.
It's just nice adaptation from TSM, Des. It's recognising that Achieved had an important role last time and giving him more tools to be able to work around this time. But Pino, he's going to get straight in there. As we said they needed to. NIP inside the first 45 seconds, straight in, kill Achieved. That's the downstairs. You don't need to worry about that anywhere near the same now. So you can start thinking about the rest of the round. Pino, he's going to hold that hatch for the time being. I think he's hoping for a drop from one of those defenders to try and replace. Now, Bolo has moved move downstairs, but he went down the Visa stairs instead. He will find a kill onto Psycho, but surely this is now for Pino to deal with. I don't think he's aware, Bolo, that Pino could approach from behind, but he's got Gio supporting him. TSM, they're just piling utility after utility, body after body downstairs, and it's paying dividends.
I mean, why wouldn't you? When again, you brought along 4 C4s in the round, you're down to only 2 as 1 has been used and 1 dived with Achieve in the back pocket. What a shot coming out of Pino as he swings onto Gio. This is the man they were missing in the first couple of rounds as their opening death. Here with him still being alive, he's found 2 excellent kills. 4 versus 3, and NIP has still got plenty of time to play with. But the problem is, they're still running around downstairs wondering where's another TSM player going to be hiding, ready to ruin our day.
That's what Pino brings to the table, and that's why I picked up on those entry deaths in round 1 or 2, because it is a big hamstring to NIP to lose him so early in the round, and especially with Muzi not stepping up with many frags as of yet. Obviously we've had the rehost there, so there won't be the current statistics for Muzi. I will get those in a second and we'll see whether he has had much of an impact yet or not. But Pino, he still needs to find Bolo downstairs. I'm not sure if they're aware that the Goyo is still down there in security. It looks like he's approaching cautiously, so I would imagine that he does, but we've just got a little bit of a game of cat and mouse with 35 seconds left to go here, Des, but NIP not really in a position, I don't think, elsewhere to think about getting the diffuser down yet.
Saw him by a pixel, you saw he knows it there. C4 comes singing out, it's going to connect and downs Kamikaze as he was stepping in, finished off by Merc as he steps off to the left to put a bullet to the brain. Shala out onto Muzi as well. Now it's starting to swing massively in TSM's favour. This is where it feels like they should be able to close things out. Merc with another great it's not really a pre-fire, more of a step out onto Julio. Completes for the 3rd in the round. TSM looking convincing. NIP again, although that was better, still need to see more, and we can't keep on saying we need to see more when you're down 4 rounds.
Absolutely not. Muzi on 2 kills prior to that, to answer my earlier question, of course, before the rehost. He's managed to get himself a couple, but without having that dynamic duo of Pino alive, it's just left NIP on the back foot, and as much as Pino did have an impact on the round there, it wasn't enough, as you say, Des, because ultimately there was just no attention to top floor. We criticised Giants for it earlier today. You know, NIP were pushing in through main door into the main lobby, Des, to try and get the diffuser down. They didn't have control over bathrooms, so they got hit with a nitro from the window. They didn't have control over top floor, realistically, at that point in time. It was just, the foundations aren't being put there for these attacks, for these executes.
It's a problem.
It is. It's 4 problems at the minute, Des.
4 big dubby problems, absolutely. I mean, stepping into the next game, don't forget, they've got SSG straight after. NIP versus SSG, the rematch of last year's grand finals at SI. And not in a situation SSG would want to be in. They lose that game, and it kind of goes somewhat out of their hands as to whether or not they stay. It entirely depends on the result between Giants and Oxygen. On paper, you're no doubt saying Oxygen should win that one, but we've seen crazier things happen here at SI so far, Ace.
Of course we have, and we will continue to see them of that, I have absolutely no doubt. Round number 5 we come into. We're going to be heading down to Garage this time around. We've got a couple of TSM players just looking to get themselves involved up on the top floor once again. We saw this last time around. Bolo lost his life early up there, but I'm sure we'll be aiming for a different outcome this time around. On the Kaid, I can only imagine that the electricals have already been played down on the Garage. Surely not, Des! No. Surely not! Muzi completely unaware of Bolo up on the top floor, and what a start for TSM once again.
Muzi looking more like Muzi. These TSM boys are eating him up. It was Pino earlier, and now it's Muzi's turn to keep on stepping into these deaths time and time again. They've got to be more mindful of these things. This is a map like Consulate where everyone wants to be at a window. They want to be causing chaos earlier on, and TSM are lapping it up right now. If they go on to win this round 5 in a row, what is that all about? You're stepping into sight. Of course there's a man with a shotgun waiting for you.
3 versus 5, Kamikaze gets that main garage door open. Psycho looks to do anything at the minute to try and get some sort of advantage back for NIP, but unable to. Tries to challenge the Maestro on the tight angle. Merc, he had a 3k last round. He's going to dip away and see if he can find any more in this. Achieved it is with a headshot onto Julio, though. 5 versus 2 now for TSM, and things, they're looking hairy. I don't care if Psycho gets a kill onto the vending machine, Des. That does not turn this round upside down. There is a lot of work for NIP to do here, not just in this round, but in the game.
Kamikaze's name very clearly inspiring the entirety of NIP today. It's not looking good because they're just walking into their deaths and no response is being given back by the other side, it feels like. For TSM here in a 4 versus 2, even when there's a minute and 10 left on the clock, you're not going to see this one slip through your fingers. You've got Charlotte sat at the back still with 2 smoke grenades on side. You've got 2 C4s ready to use. Who's going to step up and contest that on the side of NIP when you've got Psycho and Kamikaze being the only ones left to step in?
55 seconds left to go, and this is going from bad to worse for NIP right now. Merc finds a kill onto Psycho, and this is all down to Kamikaze.
Happy feet.
This utility just flying out at him at the minute. He's challenging onto the toes behind the white van there, but the best he'll get is a downstairs. He can't find a kill. Kamikaze just spraying in through that garage. He's just looking for anything he can get, but he knows that this round is almost certainly done. I've got to say, the one thing I'll hand to Kamikaze here, he seems like he's taken an awful lot of damage. He just seems to keep getting chipped away at, but they can't put him down. He's 1 bullet away now. Geo will find him. That closes out the round for TSM. 5-0 on the defence here of Consulate. Now, the one thing I'm going to say, Des, the one thing I'm going to say for NIP
Come on, mate, give us some hope.
They are positive on Consulate. They're not scared. We've seen them in the regular stage go behind like this on Consulate. They will just knuckle down when they get into the defence. They'll batten down the hatches. I can see you pulling a face at me, Des. You don't think it's going to happen. I don't honestly think it's going to happen at the minute, but what I am saying is we have seen it from NIP. They are capable. They've got great resilience. I've kept saying it throughout the SI. They're a laid-back team. They're not going to be worried. They're not going to be panicking.
Sometimes, though, right?
They're not going to be worried or panicking right now. Don't think that they're going to be sat there like, you know, absolutely falling apart because they're 5-0 down. This game is not over until it's done.
Another rehost. Unfortunate third of the game we're going to have to
TSM, one thing I will say for TSM, we've had a couple of rehost issues, and TSM are maintaining their momentum and pace through this game fantastically well to say that it has been broken up. They are doing
unshaken.
Great. So absolutely, you know, props to them. They've done a great job of that.
They're keeping themselves composed is the way to look at it. Not exactly the most impossible task when you've got a sledge smashing down a door and walking into sight, completely unaware that there is a guy with a shotgun to the right-hand side who blasts into oblivion and takes the freebie. It is looking a bit scrappy, and I know that they're a slow team. This is the kind of conversation we had about them coming into the whole tournament. Is NIP have broken away from what most would say is the LATAM style. Historically, 2 years ago, probably, you'd say LATAM, oh, aggressive region, it's all about gunfights. Absolutely not. In the last year or so, it has developed into being a real powerhouse of a region. Look at the grand finals last year. NIP were up there. In the last few months, you, X, Geo, you've all been saying, you know, this region is advancing. Strats are becoming a massive part of the play. It's not a frag fest anymore. It just feels like NIP have swung the pendulum a little bit too far in some cases, where it's lacking the finesse that a lot of NA teams have at the minute. That doesn't mean that a LATAM team won't go on to do incredible things here at SI, by the way. If nothing else coming in, everyone had them penciled down as the winners. It just means in this particular game, TSM are looking on a different level and abusing every single mistake that NIP are making.
The thing about NIP realistically, Des, is you're absolutely right in what you're saying, and we have these days where they turn up and they look a little bit lacklustre and disappointing, as they have done, you know, through the first 5 rounds. You know, I'd struggle to make an argument against that at the minute, because TSM, you know, by contrast, I don't want to, you know, sort of make it out that NIP are just playing badly here. TSM are playing fantastically well. But also, for me, you never know with NIP. You can take this game and then they'll go on and win the tournament.
Yeah.
It's honestly true, and we've seen it in the LATAM, you know, regular seasons, is they'll come through and just about get into the major, and then they'll go into the major and look like an absolute force and just run over people, and you just don't always know. So NIP, they are, for me, one of the truly unpredictable teams, and I'm sure it will continue here at Six Invitational. But right now, TSM are taking absolutely full advantage of it, and they're having a field day here on Consulate, and it just doesn't feel like there's really anything NIP can do to put the brakes on at the minute. This is all at the will of TSM.
Well, NIP fans, swap out them Hopium tanks, get the Copium ones plugged in, because this might be yet another rough defensive round. If it's 6-0 at the half, we're having a big conversation about what can be achieved once NIP go onto the defence. And you know what? We've seen a few 7-0s, mainly at the hands of Oxygen. It's not really been so much a big TSM special. They did have the one, I think, a couple of days ago. So I'm hoping for NIP there is going to be some fight back because we know they can do so much more. Look at what's happened in group stages, and playoffs is going to be their time to shine. It's what everyone's been saying about a lot of teams. Don't pay so much attention to the best of one for an indicator of form. Wait until we get into best of threes. That is when you're going to see the real team step in.
It is. It is. You know, that's where you can't necessarily just come in and expect to run over somebody like this, because you're going on to map 2 and they've got that time to turn things around, and you know, it doesn't always pan out just exactly the same. But at the minute, that's irrelevant. We're in group stages, we're in best of ones, and TSM, they're playing it perfectly right now. They've come in with an aggressive pace. They've got at NIP, they've got opening kills, they've shut them down. They've not given them space to think or breathe. They've not given them a second really to get themselves set, and it's working perfectly for TSM right now. And a 6-0 half wouldn't be surprising at all. I would have to say, Des, even still now, a 7-0 for TSM would be a big surprise.
We'll give it time. You never know what may yet develop in this round. It looks like for TSM going to be this yellow stairs hold, and Julio is there, menacing with the firebolt in hand. There's a Walmart as well, so as these discharge up more and more, you can stack a little bit more in this area. Of course, the sooner the NIP look to execute onto yellow stairs here and burn it out, the better. There will be less magnets around to help hold this one out. First one's burnt, second one's burnt. Now the grenade should follow through not long after. Firebolt comes in, make that 2 of them. Now he's forced back, and that's a great pinch.
Well played.
Psycho shutting him down. Yellow stairs is broken inside 60 seconds.
Fantastically well played from NIP there. That is a textbook clearance of the yellow stairs. But Bolo, he's still playing further down, and that's just showing how much value TSM are putting in that location at the minute. He's going to be joined by Merc, who I think is trying to move himself underneath into Piano. Just going to feed information back out on those players on the rappel, let his teammates inside know exactly where they are. Achieved is in a little bit of a sticky spot at the minute whilst there's a man on the rappel. He's going to struggle to move himself out of cubby there. I don't know if the hatch is open underneath him. That would leave him an option to drop down potentially, but Charla's in here. Does he know Psycho's coming in? Of course he does. Psycho's boots don't even touch the ground, Des, before he gets absolutely pummeled by Gio.
It's another one of those where someone's going in independently after you've busted open yellow. You think, cool, let's take admin as well, which is great, but you want to commit more than one person out there. Iana is normally the operator that will go and play solo because she's got frag, she's got the gun 6, she's got the decoy as well to make use of for information. She does it all by herself. But the problem is the initial entry. If you haven't got someone droned out and say coffin and copy, you're going to pay for that, and that's exactly what Charla has achieved. I really like how aggressively TSM are playing the map here, because NIP just cannot catch a break.
Certainly can't. 4 versus 4, 40 seconds left to go, and it's that time, Des. It's that 6th man for TSM that I keep banging on about. NIP full foul of, as they don't leave themselves enough of it. Chala gets a 2nd kill on the round, this time onto Pino, and that was a fantastic kill on the long angle there to pick up his man. He will be shut down ultimately by Muzi. 3 versus 3, 20 seconds left to go, and NIP, they need to think about prioritising, getting themselves inside and getting the diffuser down, but Bolo and Merc are having absolutely none of it. Does a headshot apiece to leave us 1 versus 3. Kamikaze has the diffuser in hand, but very little chance he gets in and makes an impact here. Finds one onto Merc, unlikely to make a difference though, as he gets shut down on the connector window. It's Bolo having a great game so far alongside the rest of his TSM teammates. They shut down a 6-0 half. Des, NIP are on the verge of being whitewashed out of Consulate.
That problem is, that was the most promising round for NIP. I mean, the opening 2 deaths, absolutely not. One, as you're rappelling into the building, getting shot out from Coffin. The second one, the sledge gets inside, I think runs through connector in towards console. Doesn't even know about the player, apparently, who first killed his teammate, the Iana, entering in from the east side. Because all the smoke did, Charla was rotated back down into meeting, held the cross angle, like you'll see just here. Barely even looking. Easy kill, 2 kills given back to the side of TSM that otherwise may have seen NIP at a 4 versus 4, or better yet, a 5 versus 4 if they managed to collect the solo kill otherwise. Unfortunate, slightly miscoordinated old wager as well, but for TSM, they'll be looking at this and brimming with confidence. SSG must be watching on now thinking, boys, fancy a game of Consulate? Because we sure do.
Looking across at the other stream as well, if you're not wanting
I can just hear Fluke going nuts all the time.
Fluke is going crazy over the other side there. She's having a ball of a time now. It's Makers versus MIBR over there, and as we were saying, there was the potential for a 6-way tie in Group B. It's looking less likely at the minute. Just mute your ears for a second if you don't want to know what's going on over there at this point, but it is currently 3-all as MIBR have just drawn level after round number 6. So
a completely even game and a stompy game.
Well, there's
a disparity.
But for that 6-way tie to happen, TSM would need to get the win here, and MIBR need to get the win in the other matchup. So Makers, they don't want any part of that 6-way tie. They don't want to be involved. They don't want to be getting roped into that whatsoever. I think they would be reasonably safe in that situation anyway due to previous results. But nonetheless, they will be looking to close out that game, I'm sure. But back to our game here on Bravo Stream, which is NIP versus TSM. And Des, this one could be over in record time. I think, what was it, 26 minutes for Oxygen? I don't know how long we've been going on here. Surely we'd have to knock off the time for the rehost.
There have been some rounds, to be fair, but there's been a minute on the clock, and NIP have been 1 versus 4. It's been a bit mental. So yeah, we'll have to find out. Like, get a count on that one. I'm sure someone's watching who's very avidly watching how many seconds pass by in each of these rounds. That's what you're into. Fair play to you. More power to you. Bolo being on the Jackal here with the Zero stepping in. We already spoke about this in the first half around how more teams have started making use of the Zero. Jackal has kind of been not a mainstay, but I'd say a good number of teams, if not all of them, have used him at least once, maybe after seeing Joystick's success.
I was going to say, Joystick's used him once or twice.
He's definitely been the inspiration for it, absolutely. I still remember my first ever pro game was watching him. I can't remember who they were playing against. I think it was Old Penta maybe, on Coastline, and he was running around having an absolute field day on Coastline with the Jackal. Now for Bolo, looking to maybe channel some of that inner power that we've seen from Joystick, who is the only player, I believe, to have surpassed 100 kills in the group stage. It's absolutely phenomenal. I know you're looking into it right now, Ace.
I just wanted to give you that number, Des, because
what is the number?
The comparator here, the important comparator here, and I'll blitz through this, is that 9 games have been played. That's the important factor. The same as EUL, the same as LATAM. Yep. EUL, Shaiko, 101 in 9 games. LATAM, Alamo, 102 in 9 games. Joystick, SI, 121 in 9 games.
That? It's disgusting. Oh, imagine being that consistent.
You didn't think it was going that high, did you?
No, I didn't think it. I thought it was like 100 and maybe 15 max, but not that level. That's absolutely insane at an international event like this against teams of this caliber. Anyway, talking more about the round, Bolo's been put down after Pino died earlier in the round. Make that a couple. Muzi's popping up a little bit, finding 2 for himself, almost makes it 3, but Charlotte's just a little bit better. 3 versus 3. Merc on the ground. NIP might have something going for them here, Ace, with 40 seconds to play.
You remember that bit, Des, where I said NIP wouldn't be scared coming into the second half, even with a big deficit. They've got themselves some great kills. Muzi's walking up, and that can always be a dangerous sentence for a team playing against him. We've got 2 left. Charlotte and Geometrics are looking to get themselves onto site still, but with 15 seconds left to go, it's looking less and less likely. Charlotte, he pushes down those rear stairs. Psycho is though, moving from Archives. Des, he's got an interesting read on the game as he finds the kill onto Geo, and Charlo closes this one out, and it will not be a whitewash. It will not be an any percent speed run against NIP. They've got themselves 1 on the board.
I remember the memes that flew around yesterday of Brazil, where it was 7-1, and it was like, oh, you saw Brazil with that scoreline, and now everyone's now hoping for it quietly. For NIP's sake, I'm hoping it's going across to 2 at the very least. We'll see if we get that far. Muzi having a great round playing around meeting. We saw Charlotte do a lot of damage from the same spot previously. And then Psycho, well, pops out and does more psychotic things to the enemy team than thought imaginable. 2 kills to close it out. And NIP gets something, but you've got to do that 5 more times in a row.
There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for errors here. And the problem is, of course, they've got to go through the full rotation of 3 sites twice over. So it is still a huge ask. You know, a complete reverse sweep like this, we can't make light of it. You know, NIP are facing a mammoth task ahead of them now to do this. They've just secured Garage and Cafeteria. They now head up to Console and Meeting. This is going to be their second site of choice. And then we will see what could be the linchpin, Des. We'd expect them to get wins on their primary and secondary sites. It's going to be that tertiary site. Is it Archives and Tellers? Do they go to Press and Lobby? Where do they choose, and will they be able to get it over the line?
Big question. Clash keeping a very close eye on this round, because when you want to slow the game down a little bit and force people to panic, what do? You play the Clash. We spoke about this in our game earlier on today, that a good number of teams, BDS being one of the ones I think that have really made a point of being a bit of a thorn in the side of others with the Clash. Just looking to always keep the other team guessing, make them panic a little bit, as Clash can have that impact, especially in the later round. Saw it coming out of Giants actually on this map earlier on, where they found their 2-round wins as a result purely of playing the Clash, which is maybe not a good sign, but definitely doing great for Clash's stats.
Certainly is. We've got Merc on the rappel there. He's going to apply a bit of pressure to the connector window, I would imagine. Muze has just dropped down into the basement, so that's something that TSM need to keep an eye on. They need to just make sure that they've got a pin in the position of Muze, know exactly where he's playing, where he's moving. He's heading back up the Visa stairs for the time being. He's just going to wait down there probably at the bottom of those meeting stairs and see if he can catch anybody out as they try to push in. Now, he's just had a Z ping actually that could just put a little bit of wind in his sails to try and get over there to the other side of the map to make a challenge onto it. They're trying to clear the man out of bathroom at the minute, but Muzi's going to take the opportunity to get himself back up into sight whilst Pino drops out of bathroom. The pressure just getting a little bit too much for him there, so he moves away. 1 minute in, no kills yet, Des, and a slightly more steady approach from TSM.
Yeah, that zap. You sort of feel the skin cells getting fried. Going to back away, not wanting to sit at that window facing off against that Clash for much longer. But Kamikaze playing in the same spot that we had. I believe it was Luna Metal on Giants playing in earlier on, just looking to contest those windows and make it so even when they're trying to cut things through, you're still having you're paying a health tax, Ace, to pass through those windows, to even look through them. It's going to cost you.
Pino finds a kill onto Geo, and that costs TSM dearly at this point, but Bolo, he knows the man's coming and gets the kill onto Pino as he tries to re-enter into the map, of course being pinged out there and just throwing his life away, but to take the Hibana, maybe not the end of the world. Bolo does have Diffuser in hand though, so still plenty of time, plenty of utility for TSM. They do not have any essential hard breach requirement on this objective as the attackers, so not the end of the world to have lost the Hibana. Now Julio finds himself still established on yellow stairs, not something that TSM have focused on too much, Des. We've had NIP players playing through most of the round in that position, coming down to 40 seconds now. TSM just need to get themselves moving.
Muzi could have definitely done a huge blow to the side of TSM if he picked up a kill there, but sadly just a few pixels off. And he skirted across to the side and managed to evade that line of death heading his way. Psycho onto Bolo. Feels again like he's starting to slowly breathe up here into a win for NIP. That being said, achieved. He's going to make his best efforts to bring it back. 20 seconds to play with though. It is going to be a bloodbath in the dying seconds here, Ace.
Kamikaze just holding tight for the time being on the Clash. Ola gets Muzi, traded out by Julio, 2 versus 2, and this goes back and forth. There's the man looking onto Kamikaze, who has dropped his shield for the time being. Achieved putting the plant down, but challenged by Julio from bathroom. Great angle. Achieved tries to go for it again. It was Merc who lost his life in the battle. The diffuser has been planted, Des, but this is going to be a huge challenge for Achieve to hold on to. He may try and do it vertically here. He's got an Ash Breach in charge left, so could open up the floor beneath the diffuser here, but he's got to go up against the Clash, and that's not going to make his life easy. They'll just back away there. It's not really got him the angle, Des. Kamikaze's on the diffuser, he's disabling. Julio finds the kill from Spiral, and NIP, that's 2 out of 6.
On the way back, no, bruh, 7-1 ill today, I'm afraid, boys and girls. They are staging a bit of a fight back. A couple of close rounds regardless, but in these mid-rounds, they are looking much more competitive. Muzi starting to come alive here and picking up a couple of kills. And then in the end of the rounds, well, the Clash is always going to shine. I think Achieve knew if he stayed on the top floor and looked to contest laterally onto that plant, chances are you're never going to beat the Clash in that case. You'll just keep you at distance and slowly drain the life out of you with that shield. 6-2 again, still the long road to come up, but my God, have we can see some crazy results this tournament. Remember day 1, G2 Team 1, 6-2 to G2 on Chalet. Thought no way they lose this one, only for Team 1 to come back and win 6 rounds back-to-back to win it 8-6.
You can never discount a team like NIP, Des. Think about it. If they get this win on Archives and Tellers, that's then a full successful defensive rotation. They can play with confidence heading back in to Garage and Cafeteria, a site that they won back in round 7, knowing they've already locked it down, knowing TSM have to bring something different to the table if they want to get that win. So at 6-3, you start looking at NIP, and that's when you get those whispers, that's when you get those thoughts of, can they really do this? Is this on the cards here? And you start thinking, well, they've already done 1 successful defensive rotation. They just need to go through it again, rinse and repeat at this point. Keep picking up those wins. And it also becomes the mental game for TSM then. I think we heard an interview with Canadian. It's been playing out in between some of the games, and he speaks about that infamous victory for Penta, and he says it gets to a point whereby you think, is this really happening? Is this really happening right now? now, and that's the point that TSM could get to. If this gets to maybe 6-4, it's a game on. It's a completely different ball game now.
Your mental shattered into 1,000 pieces on the floor. That's the way that you'd be thinking about it there. And in fact, it was NIP who said after this point, they said there was an absolute definitive point in one of the rounds on Clubhouse where they started to lose. I think it was the third map against SSG in the grand finals. SSG came back to win that map and the following two. And they all came out and said mentality is so underrated and the impact it has on...
A Bolo special!
That's going to go into a YouTube compilation somewhere, I'm sure. Psycho in the dirt, another push in. Achieve finds a second. They've absolutely exposed them here. Two going down. Charla gets dropped, but there's a trade back the other way once again. It's not looking too dire just yet, but TSM have got the advantage with a nice early push in. What a grenade! Merc, don't miss them ones. Geo's going in for a plant. It's Muzi and Kamikaze to hold on. This should be it. It should be the 7-2. There's a man on the ground. He's out and moving, but can they hold on? Muzi's moving and grooving through Garage, finds Merc. 2 versus 3 ace. They've got about 25 seconds to make it all happen.
This should be it now. TSM cannot let this slide. It was always necessary for TSM to come in and close this out quickly. As I said, the longer it ticked by, the more it went on, the more difficult it would become. Achieve just trying to use a bullet hole there to get that final kill, but he cannot manage it. 2 versus 3. 1 versus 3. Bolo, Geo, take a bow. You've closed it out. TSM, they shut down a great matchup against NIP. And what a performance from the North Americans, Des. What a message they've just sent that we could have just been watching the potential world champions of the future. They really are putting a marker down here at Six Invitational 2021.
They've had a game there, Ace. For TSM, they were already top of the group, but they have absolutely cemented it in place after today. A 7-4 over a very competitive Parabellum, a stomping 7-2 against NIP, and you look back at some of their previous results as well and just think, this could be their time. We've said that for a few teams. BDS are another team that we're always saying, if not now, when? Surely you're asking the same question of TSM when NIP not looking as strong as they were, when SSG, with Canadian back in the roster, are looking shaky and are going to have to fight for their lives in this next game. Could this be their year?
TSM have been a very good team for a very long time, Des. That much we know, and like you say, there's a couple of them out there where you're looking, and for me, Liquid, BDS and TSM, they're the three at the minute that I look at and I think, it's now or never. Come on, you know, like this is your moment, this is your key time, this is where you've really coming in strong and playing well, and they're going to be feeling that as well, I'm sure.
Question is, NIP feeling it? They've got to face up against SSG next. Not really a whole ton to play for, you might argue, in NIP's case, but for SSG, it might just mean the world. Let's go to a break, and when we come back, the analysts will break that down a little bit further.